And as for Biden, well, see, this is the thing about what's going on at the moment. It's all perceptual. It's all about control of perception, because from perception comes behavior. You want to control behavior, control perception. So this is why we get our perceptions from information we receive. This is why they want to control the information, because they then control the perception and they control the behavior. That's the sequence. And one of the things they are putting before us now, more than ever before, that done it before, of course, but more than ever before, is complete morons in positions of political power. And this does two things. First of all, people lose respect for their country. And they want people to lose respect for their country because they want an end to countries. They want a global monoculture. No countries as we know them, and no nations as we know them. That's all part of the longer process of the Great Reset. But they also want to say to you, because what they've done now is they've gone from hiding it, because they can't hide it, they're getting so close to their end goal, they have to break the surface. Now they've gone from hiding it to saying, look, we control everything. We can put this senile man in the White House as President of the United States. We can do that. Look, we can put morons in power in New Zealand with Ardern, in Canada with Trudeau, and so on. Because we have the power. We can put anyone in office that we like. That's all part of breaking the spirit of the population to the point where they say, well, there's nothing we can do. They've got so much power. And so, I mean, Biden's apparently saying he's going to run again. Well, it'd be a quick walk anyway. What will happen with that, given his senile nature, I don't know. But by the way, there's a guy called Fetterman. You know about him? Mm-mm. John Fetterman. John Fetterman, I think it was John Fetterman, that's his name. He had a stroke, which means that he can't speak properly. And he's been doing interviews with reporters via a computer. So when they ask their question, it comes up on a computer and he can read it so that he can understand it. And he was put up for the Democrats and won. How the heck is he gonna function on Capitol Hill when he can't, he's just not got the faculties. He can't hold a proper conversation, he can't talk, and he can't understand much of what people are saying to him. But he got elected to Capitol Hill. And and so much money was put in, and support. Obama turned up, they all turned up to support him. Why would they do that? Because it's, again, part of this process. We can put anyone in political office we choose. So don't take us on, waste of time. We control everything. And the reason they want us to believe that is because they don't. It's because a handful of people, relatively, cannot control 8 billion if 8 billion won't have it. So they've got to get us to perceptually believe they have unbreakable power when they don't. And one of the things that I've been getting across over and over again, and was going to say in the Netherlands in that speech, is they don't have the power. They just want you to believe they do so that you will not challenge them. And this is one of the things that I say that they absolutely want to silence, because I know they have no power. Okay, look what's happening in China now. 25 million people locked down in Shanghai, 400 million, I think the last figure, around the country. China has a population of 1.5 billion. Take the number of people in the Chinese Communist Party and this psychopath, Xi Jinping, take their law enforcement and take it away from 1.5 billion. It hardly touches the sides. So if a significant chunk of the 1.5 billion refuse to cooperate with the system, I don't care how many QR codes you bloody have, it's unenforceable. There's too many people. Take a third, say 500 million said we're not having it in China. Over, gone, kaput, finished. How many would it take of the 8 billion to make this cult's imposition unenforceable? I mean, this cult, compared with the global population, is so small in number in terms of people in full knowledge of what they're doing and what the plan is, that they have to recruit from the target population for its government administrators and its law enforcement. So law enforcement, like the journalists I mentioned earlier, excuse for journalists, they're getting up every morning. Are you listening? Police officers and military around the world, they're getting up every morning, seeing their children off to school, going to work, enforcing on the target population which they come from, what this small group at the center of the cult wants them to do and wants them to impose. And then they go home at the end of the day and see their children. The very children and grandchildren that their actions every day, see COVID lockdown, see what's happening in China now, is imposing in terms of fascism for the rest of their life on their own children and grandchildren. And the government administrators in the local councils and the governments that are administering and forcing upon the population, or trying to, what ultimately the cult is dictating via governments. And they have kids and grandkids, and they are working every day to ensure that their kids and grandkids are going to live the rest of their lives in a level of technologically generated AI imposed fascism that is beyond anything the Nazis could even think of. And so if you break it down, you take away the journalists that are perceptually programming the people, because they're perceptually programmed themselves. You take away, who are overwhelmingly from the target population. You take away the law enforcement, which are from the target population. You take away the government administrators that are overwhelmingly from the target population. How many of these buggers is left? And yet their agenda is being imposed on billions. Why? Because the bloody billions are letting it happen. And you know, I've said this, Brian, many times. This cult don't worry me, because ultimately it has no power. The power it accrues is the power it gets from the people in the form of acquiescence. In the form of belief in its power, the population hand over their power to it, which is the only power it ever has. Acquiescence, that's the power. So for that reason, the cult worries me less than the population. Because, you know, there's two types of people that have two mentalities that have created and allowed to manifest every tyranny in history. I don't care if it's Chinese communism or whether it's Nazi fascism, whatever. One group are the unquestioning people who take what they're told by authority and unquestioningly believe it, and then act upon what they have unquestionably believed. They are a piece of cake because if authority says it, they believe it and they do it. The equivalent is, it was on the BBC, it must be true. It probably wasn't then. And then you have this other group that doesn't want to acquiesce like the first group does without question, but it's terrified of not acquiescing because it says, what are the consequences for me of not doing what I'm told? Those two mentalities have been responsible for every tyranny in history because fascism is never brought in by fascists. There's never enough of them. Fascism comes in by the acquiescence of the people to fascism, either through doing what they're told without question or doing what they're told because they fear not doing so, which leaves group 3, which has ended every tyranny in history. And that's the group that can see it. They can see they're being lied to. They can see why they're being lied to and what the end game is, and they will not cooperate with it. They say, I would rather die than accept this imposition on my life. And they are the people, the mentality, that are going to end this tyranny. If anyone is going to end it, the only people who are going to end it are those people with that mentality.